Okay, welcome everyone to Supercharged Sunday with me, Emily McHugh, your Supercharged host, and my special guest with me today, Helena McHugh, the sewing queen, also known as my sister Helena. So Helena is back. Welcome, Helena.
Thank you.
And Helena is back with us today. She's a recurring guest. She was here back in March for her birthday special. We thought we'd bring her back to focus on her area of expertise and what she does, one of the things that she does, and to highlight it a bit more formally. So the last time was a little informal. Today it's going to be a little bit more formal or quasi-formal, and we're going to share the topic of Upholstery 101, what you need to know. So yes, it'll be very interesting because many of us have maybe an old couch hanging around our house, an old chair, something or another that we'd like to have covered or upholstered. And either we're trying to select an upholsterer or we want to try to do it ourselves. And we really don't know what it takes. We don't know where to start. And sometimes, even if you do get an upholsterer and you're like, why is it so expensive? Well, there is a reason. And today, or why could it be so expensive? So we're going to delve into a little bit about behind the scenes as to what it takes, and hopefully some of these insights will be helpful to you as you delve into the mysterious world of upholstery. And we'll also look at some of the business perspectives of it as well. So let's dive in. And of course, if you have any questions, just drop them in the comments. We'll come back and make sure to look at them, and certainly welcome your feedback as we go through today. So Helena, let's jump right into this topic here. And maybe we should start with how you even got into upholstery in the first place. Like how did this begin for you?
How did it begin? It began with our mother. We had a green sofa bed that was a twin size. It was green canvas and it was used for guests whenever we had guests in New Jersey in the house there, cold room. Anyway, she wanted it reupholstered and we picked a forest green. It was forest green canvas and we went with a forest green velvet that I found. And I studied it and started to make a cover for this sofa bed. And it lasted a long time. I don't know where it is right now. I have to ask our brother. But that was the first attempt. And it was pretty successful because it worked very well. It took me a long time to do it. And our mother was on us to do that, on me to get it done. But I did it, and it was my first one. So,
Yeah, it was very good. I remember that, and the thing about it is because you sewed, so kind of going back to the whole ability to even do that in the first place is that Helena started to sew. When did you learn to sew? How did you start to learn to sew?
Well, watching Mommy and Dottie, our aunt, our mother's older sister. I used to sit with them while they sewed. And also I went to school for it too. So I went to FIT, Fashion Institute of Technology in New York on 27th Avenue. Everyone knows that's Fashion Avenue.
And not to be confused with FIT in Florida, the Florida Institute of Technology. This is very much Fashion Institute.
Fashion Institute of Technology has been around since 1947, I think. So I went there for 4 years. I took 2 years of pattern making, which they don't have much anymore, and 2 years of textiles.
So explain to people, what is pattern making?
Pattern making is putting pencil to paper and coming up with a clothing pattern. We also learned how to drape on the dress form, and you could also make the dress pattern that way. Most designers, high designers, they do the draping. And draping is very nice, and that's what I use for the upholstery too. I have to use a draping situation. It's not to be confused with drapery as curtains. This is a different kind of draping that you drape on the form. You have like a muslin or waste fabric that you can pattern the object that you want to copy from. So that's draping. So that experience at school, and also what I had in my head, and also books. Oh, books. Okay, so let's see how I get it. Okay, this is a good one. If you ever want to learn, you know,
Furniture upholstery.
this is Singer. I used to collect this back in the 90s. Back in the yeah, 90s. Like this one. This one.
So this is your Singer
Yeah,
collection of
this is my starting point with this stuff. The
window treatments.
right?
She started off with having like a catalog of reference books
I collect
that
information.
you would refer to,
So
and that shows different techniques and ways of doing things, like
Yeah.
pulling apart the furniture and
Yeah.
then.
so stuff like this.
So you're showing photos of
This is
upholstery.
yeah upholstery, but this is about a slip cover for chairs.
So
And this one is totally visible.
So explain, Helena, how did you go from sewing clothes? Well, let's go back to the sewing. So you started sewing, you learned from our mom and our aunt, and if I recall, you used to make doll clothes for me, my dolls, and that was one way you were sewing. So you literally have sewn your entire life
Yes.
and gradually escalated up. What was the transition like from sewing clothes to, which you still do, but sewing clothing to upholstery? What are some of the differences?
Oh, there's a lot of differences. The fabric is different. What you're doing is different. The tools and the construction is different. I mean, clothing and but there are also basic things. You have to know how to sew. You have to put those cushions, the upholstery stuff together. Sometimes you have to sew the pieces together. You know how to do the piping or welting, what they call along the
You
edge.
do learn the terminology.
Yeah.
That's one
Okay,
thing.
so the terminologies. When I first started this in fashion or clothing, we all know it as piping. Okay, so piping is fabric that covers a rope or cording. In upholstering, it's called welting. I do not know why it is called that.
But it's the same look.
Or I guess a welt means a swelling of something. I guess some old time terminology from French. Anyway, so that you need to learn how to sew, and you also have to know how to calculate it and make the bias tape that makes the welting slash piping. Same thing in sewing, but you're making a lot more of it. And then there are different types of cord. If it's going to go outside, there's a different kind of cord for that, and a cord that's going to go inside for indoor use versus outdoor use. You have to think of those things. And also when it comes to the fabric, indoor, outdoor use, make sure that it's for upholstery. It's made for upholstery type fabric versus drapery fabric. Drapery fabric is different than upholstery fabric.
And that drapery now is curtains and window treatments.
Exactly. So the difference is it's a lighter weight. Most of the time, it's a lighter weight fabric, depending upon what you choose.
Lighter weight for what?
For the drapery, curtains and such. It's just lighter weight. It's lighter weight fabric. Most of the time, it is made from cotton. Most of it is cotton and prints. Okay. When it comes to upholstery, it's a heavier weight fabric most of the time. Vinyl leather, it's more stable. You have to stretch it. And a lot of sculpturing is involved in sometimes when you use leather, if you're going to use leather. Vinyl is similar, but it depends upon if the vinyl is very stretchy. Polyester kind of fabric. Now, one thing when it comes to outdoor fabric, the pricing of it. The reason why it's so pricey, or why upholstery fabric is so pricey, is because they make one style for the year, and they want to make as much money as they can out of that. They might make different colorways, but it's for the season. Okay, so that's one reason why. And also the fabric content. For instance, there's a fabric called Sunbrella, which is used for outdoor fabric. And then there's other cheaper ones, more inexpensive ones that are made out of polyester. Now, the Sunbrella fabric is made in such a way, it's made from acrylic. And the process of how they make it makes it that it can last longer in the sun and in the weather. And how they make it is, just as a heads up as to know, is that they do solution dyeing, where when they're making the fiber itself, the acrylic is a synthetic fiber. When they're making it, they're inserting the dye into the fiber so it's permanent. So when the sun hits it, it's like, and also melting points also. It's in the fabric. It's in the marrow of the fabric, as I would say, and it can take the wear and tear of the weather, hence the expense of doing it. It's permanent, and they put a lot into that color. So sometimes you won't see a lot of fashion colors in upholstery because it's too fly by night kind of thing. So it's more of stuff that was going to stay longer. Because I was when I was in school, as an example, our teacher asked us, how long before a woman wants to change her decor in her house, and I said 10 years, and everyone was guessing 5 years, and I was correct. And the teacher asked me, how did I know? I said, well, that's how long it takes my mother to get bored with stuff before she changes stuff. And it's every 10 years, that more so depending upon what you can afford. But every 10 years, someone wants to change stuff.
And that would be like a dramatic change.
Oh,
because there's some people who change a house every year if they, depending on what they want. But the average person, it's a cycle of a 10-year cycle.
Or when they buy a new house.
Okay, when you buy a new house. So,
Okay.
but the thing about it, so now with a lot of us staying at home more with the whole pandemic, people have been confined to their homes, and a lot of people have been updating things around their house, changing things out, changing out their decor, creating home offices, creating spaces to work and so forth for themselves, for their children to do the schoolwork, etc. So there's been a lot of home decor activity happening.
Mhm.
And so what would you say as far as, so people are refreshing their furniture or refreshing that chair to make it more comfortable and so on. So when you as a upholsterer, people bring you work to do, what are some of the first steps in the process of upholstery? And you mentioned selecting the fabric, so tell us some of the steps.
My notebook and my pencil.
My notebook and my pencil and my calculator. Okay. First of all, I start out, they tell me what they would like to have happen. And I question them because I know what I have to do to get the product done. But I have to know what they want.
What are some of the questions you ask?
Well, first of all, I want to see a picture of it. Oh, can you price me this? And I haven't seen a picture of it yet. So I need to see the picture. Everybody needs to see the picture. I need to have measurements, and thickness and what those kind of things, and the kind of fabric that they want to use. The wider the fabric, the better. So, but there are also limits on the width of fabrics these days. Okay, so here's the thing: cotton is usually 44 to 46 inches long, wide, sometimes 48. In upholstery fabric, it is usually 54, 58, maybe 60.
And that's the width of the fabric.
Most of the time it's in 55, but it's 54 inches you can use because of the selvage.
Okay? And selvage is the edging.
The edge, a finished edge of fabric from the width, from east to west, and the yardage is from north to south, okay, the length of the fabric. So those kind of things. So for instance, most cushions are at least 24 inches wide, a cushion for a chair. There's certain kind of measurements that are kind of standard in furniture. 24 inches
by 24 inches for average cushion. Maybe even longer, but you'll see the foam in the store, you see that it's 24 inches, so we have to work in that. If it's a wider chair, then I have to glue foam together to make it, and it will stay put, because once that chemistry of the foam gets together, they just mesh together, and they're very firm. And to make it nice and smooth, put batting on it. So we use a lot of batting.
So let's back, because a lot of this terminology, people may or may not know what it is.
Okay.
So we know foam is foam, okay, but batting is that kind of textury thing that can go. I don't have a sample right now.
It's just I don't have a sample.
Okay. Well, you put it on top of the foam to kind of make it smooth it out and make it more malleable, like
non-woven mesh of fibers put together, matted together. Okay, like felt. It's the same kind of idea of felt. It's just these synthetic fibers that are meshed together that are a certain thickness, like making plywood. Certain thickness, but it's soft and smooth, and it kind of fill in the bumps of the foam and gives you a nice smooth shape. Yeah, you can shape the cushion. And
so Helena, after people reach out to you and you get the basic steps, then what happens after that? You get the photo, you understand what they need. What are the next things that you do?
Well, for instance, if I was to make a cushion, say a 24-inch by 24-inch square cushion, I need the foam. I cut the foam to the size that I want it to be. And then I might do a pattern or cut it directly from the fabric. So I would, here how it goes, 24 inches. It needs to be finished at 24 inches. So I need a seam allowance of ½ inch each on either side. So that's a 25 square piece fabric. Top, bottom, so 2 pieces, because I'm making 1 cushion, right? And then I have to have the zipper in the back to put it in, because sewing it underneath the machine is it's difficult. That thick cushion underneath to pull it and to get the seams together, to stitch it together. So always I put a zipper in. Most always put some zipper in, unless it's a single. It has no boxing, which I mean is the boxing is the gusset in a pillow, goes around it with the piping on the side, welting around it. So all that I have to sew onto the main fabric, the top, the bottom, around the edge. Then I put the gusset. I sew the zipper in the section of the gusset, then put the gussets together, and then sew the gusset onto the front and the back sides of the cushion, and then I turn it out and put it onto the cushion. And sometimes I use a kind of film that makes it easier to put it on, or I use a plastic bag, and you use a vacuum cleaner. Like you put it in a garbage bag, cushion, and then you use a vacuum cleaner hose to suck up that air, and it compacts that foam that you can put into the pillow really easily.
I haven't seen you do that.
No, I don't do it too often, but I'm going to do it more often.
Oh, okay. I look forward to
that
seeing
makes
that
it-
happen.
yeah,
So it's very much a structure. As a matter of fact, upholstery is like engineering.
Yes.
You are literally building or rebuilding a structure. And so and it's almost like the architecture of something, because it has to take a certain amount of weight, it has to be able to take the durability. So again, when people want quotes on what it takes to do things, it's first of all what it is that you have, what does it take to do it, what does it take to pull it apart, and to remove the materials that are there and then build it back up. Because a few years ago you did some recliners.
Yes, I did 2 recliners. I've never done a recliner before.
And they were wooden, right?
Most of them are wooden, but they have the metal mechanism that is the recliner section. And thank God for YouTube, because there are not many books that tell you about how to upholster a recliner. A recliner you have to remove the back. So I have to find out how to remove the back. and there's screws in there. You have to take off the back and screw it off, and then
And really pull the whole thing apart.
pull stuff
Pull it
apart. But the secret to this is that you can't depend on your memory, so start taking a lot of pictures. Take up pictures of this, the measurements was like
How
this.
it look before you pull it
Exactly.
apart and as you go.
And also these parts are also your pattern pieces too, to remake the other stuff. Now, here's another thing. In choosing fabrics, in certain objects, they have a really fancy chair, and you want a nice design on it. So it's cheaper to buy that kind of fabric for a fancy chair like that. You're going to actually use a lot. You'll use less than, say, a big sofa chair. A 2-seater sofa chair, 3-seater sofa chair. You're going to spend a lot of money for these expensive fabrics. Okay, so that's one thing you have to keep in mind.
Well, I don't understand. What do you mean by that?
For instance, there's some prints.
Or if it's a printed fabric,
You
have to buy more yardage because of the pattern. Is that what
the pattern? Yes, the pattern. Yes, definitely. So I'm just saying that if you have a choice, given a choice, I would prefer for a smaller chair, you buy the more expensive, fancier fabric if you want that. If you don't want that, then
As
what you want.
opposed to spending that on a bigger couch.
A bigger couch.
Okay, I see.
Right?
So more like an accent piece.
Exactly.
You use that nice fabric, that pretty, that's extra
So
fancy.
that's why you see most of these chairs and couches in plain solid fabrics, because it's kind of cheaper. And another thing, when you do fancy fabric, that it has to be matched, you have to buy more fabric. Stripes, one-way designs, like the ones they call Floral Designs too, which is one way, where you look at the fabric and the design only goes one way. It doesn't go two-way.
You can only put it in one direction. So you have to use more fabric for that.
So you like match up the pattern.
So people need to keep in mind
continuous.
the continuous pattern.
Exactly.
Right.
Because I have to match it.
So these are a lot of considerations. So it's not like, oh, I just see that, I think it's pretty, I'm going to get it, and that's it. It's like, what can I use it for? What's the best item to put it on? And is it, how much of it am I going to need in order for it to work?
Correct.
So those are some things to keep in mind.
So for instance, most fabrics printed are a 27-inch repeat, sometimes a bit more, because it's done on a drum, at least it used to be, and 27 inches. So that's why the fabric would be 54 inches, because I could get the center it and double it, and it just worked that way. Okay. So you have to center the pattern on the center of the chair, couch, whatever you're doing. So you have to work it that way. Everything has to be even, symmetrical if you're doing a pattern. If you're doing a solid, you can do a lot of different things with it that you can't do with a printed fabric. There's a thing called railroading, where, say, I'm going to do a long couch. That's about over 7 feet long, and I can get a lot of different things down the width of the fabric. So railroading is going the length of the fabric versus the width. So just imagine if there was a pattern on that, and the pattern is going this way, but I need the fabric to go that way. So I have to use strips of fabric, vertical versus horizontal, to match up designs, versus if I use a solid color, I can railroad it, and I don't have to worry about matching. And I also can use sometimes a lot less fabric too. But some of these, there's a couch I'm gonna have to do is calling for 15 yards of fabric, and that's another thing. I have to measure, calculate the width versus what that couch looks like to get the most economical way of using that fabric. And sometimes I'm laying out the pieces. I haven't taken apart this couch yet, but I'm looking at all the pieces that I need, the size of the pieces and laying them out to get the yardage, because I have to make sure that they're getting what they're getting. And then the supplies. Now, if you're a person who wants to do it yourself, so these are the things you're going to need. You're going to need your notebook and your pencil. You're going to use your tape measure. Tape measures, I have here 60-inch and 120-inch. So when I have to do draperies for people, 120-inch, and then you have 25-foot measuring tapes and stuff like that, and then my transparent ruler, and then I have my other two rulers, 48 and 60. You can get it at Home Depot. 48 and 60 inch. Yeah, 48-inch and 60-inch. Right? So yeah, 59, but it's actually 60.
So why do you need a transparent ruler?
Oh, because to see through an edge of something. If you make a line across it, and you can put it on the line to measure out again.
Okay.
It just.
All right. So as you start to use things, you start to see why it's more and more important.
36-inch.
So multiple levels of rulers, tapes, and measuring tools. As they say, cut once, measure twice, or 3 or 4 or 5 times.
Measure twice.
Or multiple times at this point.
Yes, exactly.
All right.
Sometimes you can make errors, and also draw it out, and because sometimes you can make errors. Sometimes. A nice sharp scissors for fabric. And also have a separate one for paper.
Right, separate scissors for separate purposes.
Yeah.
Because it will dull out your scissors if you use it for different things. So.
Well, actually, if you use the fabric one for also paper, it will dull it out. Right? Okay. So it does have two separate, really good scissors though, comfortable. And then I have several staple removers. Yes, these are very important. Staple removers.
There's a lot of staples used in upholstery.
Oh, yes.
Hundreds and hundreds.
Oh, yeah. A whole bunch.
Yeah.
Especially when they're automatic.
Okay.
And then I have.
So we're looking at all the tools.
A mallet.
Okay.
Sometimes I need it. Screwdriver. Just a screwdriver, also electrical drill. I love my electrical drill. Another staple remover, and seam ripper, and wire cutter kind of pliers, different kind of pliers, and I wear gloves too. Oh yeah, to save my hands. Okay, and then
the power tools.
I love power tools. Home Depot is going to be your friend if you're into this now. This is my latest.
What is that?
A Bosic electrical stapler.
Oh, electrical stapler. Okay.
I'm finding that it's not as fast as I want it to be, so one day I will have to graduate up to the air gun business, but we'll see.
But for now, it does the job.
So, starting out, there is the arrow stuff, which I keep as backup.
Stapler.
Hand stapler. I have the different sizes of staples. Half an inch. And then there are different gauges of staples when you go looking for these staple guns. And I have to make sure.
So, so you can get all technical depending on the kind of furniture being upholstered and so forth. But the key is you choose your fabric. You have your measuring tools, your disassembling tools, and then of course your stapling, your draping and things of how you're going to do it. And then after you assemble all of that, then what?
So how you do it is you take the last part they put on is the first you're going to take off. So the last thing they put on was a black velvet underneath, the dust fabric underneath. So you delicately take that off.
Underneath the couch.
This black thing that our cat loves. And then you take off the back, and then you work your way towards the front. Sometimes you can work the front to the back, but usually it's from the bottom back to the front.
And you don't start taking it off till you know how to put it back on.
That's for sure.
It's kind of like learning to drive. Like you don't get into a car, you don't take off until you know how to stop the car. So the same thing with furniture.
It's more pictures, sketching, drawings, and measurements. are very handy in doing this. And also, if you have two of the thing that you need to do, it's really wonderful because you can use one chair to use as a copy for the next one.
Yes. And also talking a little bit about the business of upholstery. So we have the technical side of actually upholstering furniture, things to think about when you're shopping for fabric, like you mentioned, the weight and the design direction and so forth, and how much fabric you're going to need to do what you need to do, and of course what your budget is to make sure that you are in line with that.
Because this is no cheap
Because
business.
it's easy to get expensive. Not only is the fabric, you want to get a good quality fabric because it's going to last you.
You want it to last.
So you want to invest in that. And then as far as the labor, when you hire someone, you hire an upholsterer, you want someone who is experienced and understands what it takes, has a track record ideally, or certainly knows how to figure it out. Because certain types of furniture, it may be a new type of furniture that you're dealing with because of some of the way it's laid out, but you can figure it out because of your expertise. So that's a part of it.
Because I don't know of any upholstery schools anymore, and there might be some online people who will train I know people who will train you to fix your sewing machine, but upholstering, I had to learn from books. I had to learn from books.
And also experience
Yeah,
doing it and so forth like that.
And studying books because these people who write the books are the ones who are actually doing it.
And then this whole apprenticeship thing too. That's how people used to learn through apprenticing to others, and that's not so common these as much.
I cannot praise Uline because YouTube. I'm sorry, YouTube. I mean,
Uline is our boxes.
I'm sorry. YouTube is just a great help. Is a great help
when you find the right video that people are but you also have to know what you're looking for. Exactly. So that's the thing too, because
and put it in the search.
The right techniques again being used and so on. So let's talk a little bit about the business of upholstery and how you kind of got pulled into it, because firstly you used to do like alterations for people, backing all away from that. There's a different kind of things. But Helena makes our Cosori bags, our line of travel bags. She makes them, and they're somewhere. So there's the bags, and then that's a special kind of. This is how you make bags is one type of techniques. You use different types of sewing machines to do different types of things. And then of course, as we mentioned before, you do make clothes and you do a lot of alterations. And people would say, oh, can you do this for me? Can you fix my bedspread? Can you do some pillows? And then one thing led to the next, and you started to go whole hog into upholstery. With the slip covers. And
it can be a nice business. It can be a nice business when you're set up nicely, and you have some good customers, but there's always the customer that comes along that you have to be very patient with, and don't get too frustrated because.
But you have some great customers, especially those who know what they want. They have a sense of their what they are looking for, and they're really easy to work with. So that really helps. And if they're not so clear, that you can guide them as well, how to make it easier for them to do this. So one thing we should talk a little bit about is slip covers. Yeah. Slip covers versus reupholstering something, like you sew it back onto the actual structure, but the slip cover. So share about that.
People might think that it's cheaper to just get a slip cover, and yeah, you can go online and get a cheap slip cover for $34, and I don't blame you. But if you want a fitted slip cover, it's like a upholstery job. Okay, I have to put zippers in it, I have to drape it, I have to do this and that, all of it. So it all depends upon what the customer wants. Slip covers are, as I said, it can be just like doing an upholstery job. And what I mean by that is taking it apart. Sometimes, if you want a slip cover just to put over the couch, it's still work. I still have to make the pattern of the couch, rub it off and such, and make sure that it will fit.
Because many times when you've done a slip cover, it looks like a full-fledged upholstery, like you had reupholstered the item because it's fitted. Yeah. Because it's fitted. So sometimes people have the idea of slipcovers as this loose drapey thing, and for some things it can be that way,
It depends
or
upon the furniture.
it can be a actually fitted piece of item. So one of the reasons is I wanted to highlight Helena's upholstery skills because number one, I think I hesitate to say it's a dying art, but for some people it is. But at the same time, it's something that a lot of people are interested in how to do it and how does it work. Because until you started doing this, I had no idea how in the world. It felt like magic to me. A couch was redone, and wow, they did that magically because I couldn't even fathom how things are put back in such a way that you don't see it, and so on. So all these different types of pins and what do you call them? Screws and things that go in places that.
You can build a piece of furniture, but to get it upholstered, you have to add the what do you call it, the jute tape to it. Then the springs come onto it, and there's a special way to do that. And kind of material you have to get, and then you put the batting on, then the foam and batting again, more stapling, more stapling, more stapling, and then you start putting on that fabric and staple, 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 and then you have a nice piece of furniture. And when you see furniture in the store going for like $900, $1,000, $700, there's a reason why.
Okay, let me show you a little bit about Helena's work so you can see what she's doing. And this is one of the stools that she did. And she does the cushions, the recovered, the slip covers, and so forth. That was one thing. But I wanted to show you some more. Hold on, people. That's one. I'm going to show you another one. But no, Helena's done some great work. And if you're interested, so Helena, if people are interested in working with you, what do they need to do? Okay, so or they can drop a comment below,
Yes,
and they can reach out, and we can share the number. You want us to share the business, or which number you want to share?
The number that I use for people on my business card. So here's the number. It is 646-920-0011.
Okay. So I hope you got that. 646-920-0011. And we're debating whether you should get a Facebook page or Instagram because you're not on Facebook.
I might be, but
At the age.
Yeah, well, there's a certain age limit that people aren't interested in that kind of stuff or
We're on Facebook right now.
I know, and I don't.
Okay. Let's not
I don't
beat up her.
I don't do it.
Okay, so
I do Pinterest. I do YouTube.
Guess who is her agent? Okay, so if you do see something show up on Facebook, it would be from me, and or on Instagram, because as I said, Helena does really beautiful work. So
you're too busy.
So if people, I'm your marketing person, yes, more or less. And yes, that's what I have. And so therefore that's what we're doing. Yeah. But we want to encourage people who are interested in learning about upholstery. Someone who's watching this and they say, I want to learn how to do this myself. Some of the tips Helena shared today are a good place to start. And as you mentioned, there are a lot of YouTube videos are great places to experiment and
then the books in the library.
And the books.
And the books. Go on Amazon. I got a nice book. The lady's company's Puce. In I think Texas, she did a nice book of upholstery. Know-how. Some of these books are kind of. But you have to look at them.
See if they actually can work.
Yeah.
But also maybe try something simple that maybe it's not your favorite piece of furniture. So try something simple that you could work with.
There are two YouTube people I like to watch, and I'll give you the names. It's Chester,
the Russian.
Chester, the Russian. He's really good. And then ALO Upholstery out of Canada. Yeah. I think it's a Korean fellow does it, but he explains it. The Russian, he's just good.
He has really cool videos.
He's really good. He seemed with that table of his and all that wood he takes out and starts to figure out to do something, and you get inspired.
Yeah, and the thing is not to the fear of overcoming. It's kind of like business, and I want to bring this back to like a kind of a business place because it's like something is unknown, and you're not sure how it's going to turn out, but you have to start and do one piece at a time, and the next thing you know, wow, that worked. I can maybe do the next thing, or I can go on to the next piece. You have to be courageous
Exactly.
in approaching that.
And when I talk about measuring, I like to go to the person's place if I can and measure. Because when, I mean, they are the client, but I found out that
There's certain aspects of the measuring that you know what to
it's
look
best
for.
that I go and measure.
Yeah, you have to because you're responsible for how it comes out.
Something goes off, and
Yeah.
so you always have where you are get your numbers right, and but also knowing what they want, but you need to get your numbers correctly.
You need to go right. And what do you enjoy most about upholstery work?
When they pay.
Okay, that's good. What do you enjoy most about the work itself?
The fabric, I like doing the fabric. I like cutting.
Oh, okay.
I like cutting. I always like cutting.
Okay. Well, now y'all know.
Yeah.
Cut and payment. There you go. So yeah. So this is very intriguing,
And when it's finished, I like
the finished job is always very exciting to see that. And I'm gonna see if I can show you.
Particularly what I will tell you the truth that it's you're doing it for the money. So
Okay, Helen, you have to be so obvious. Don't we all do everything for money, but also
I'm not mercenary, but yeah, it's my reward.
but
My reward also is that the person is happy with what they get, and hence that's why the work in the beginning, why I said, what do you want? And I try to work and show them these are them. If you do this, you're going to have this happen. Do this. This will look this way, so forth and so forth. And I want them to know what they're going to get before I do it.
So this is another example. I know I showed this before, but here is a fitted couch that Helena did. And actually, just make it bigger so you can see. And here's some pillows, and then here is the couch. This is a beautiful couch, and that is a slipcover couch right there. So you can see that a slipcover can look like a full upholstery, but it's actually the couch like
and
that.
And the way how that's done is that minus the cushions, they have a deck at the bottom here underneath the cushions, and to get it onto that sofa, you have to put 2 zippers in the back, 2 zippers or Velcro. Zippers is better in certain cases.
So that's an example of some of the things that I'm going to be sharing more of Helena's work as time goes on.
It's not hard. It just takes
time and patience, and also a method of approaching it.
And you also have a certain amount of symmetry. And working with symmetry, if you do it to this side, you do it to this side. So when that footstool or any kind of seat cover, dinner seat, and you take it off, you do use when you're stapling it back, you take it off, you have your new fabric, you make sure that it's at least 4 or 5 inches larger than the fabric that you took off, or bigger than, because you have to go underneath it. Okay, so that's why sometimes these slip covers are kind of take up a lot of fabric. So suppose the chair is 20 inches wide by 18 inches. So you have to think of the thickness, and underneath that, so that's 4 inches here, 4 inches here, that's an extra 8 inches on either end, okay, on either side. So you sculpture to the chair. So you staple it in the middle, in the front, smooth it out to the back, staple it in the back, smooth it to the sides in the middle, staple that side, and then you smooth it around and staple until the wrinkles are smoothed out. Once you smooth it out, it lies nicely. and then stapling it, put a little tension on it. Again, if you're using a design, you have to center that design and keep it centered when you staple in it. Hence why you start in the front or the back, and you start north, south, east, west, and diagonal, northeast, northwest, whatever. Okay, so that kind of thing. If you want to do your own seat covers and upholstery, then use a stapler. You go to Home Depot and you get your staple and your staplers, and they tell you what sizes they get, and you get one of this, and your scissors, your tape measure, and you're on your own. You can do it. You can do it.
There you go. If
You can do it.
Set your mind to it, you can do
And
that.
then suppose the chair is woody, and when you sit on it, it's uncomfortable. So you get, say, 1-inch foam. You cut it to the shape of the chair. You glue it on. You buy adhesive, spray adhesive in the craft section of Walmart or wherever, and you cut it around. You can use a bread knife, a sharp bread knife, a serrated bread knife. You mark around it and you cut around it, and you glue it onto it, and then you put the foam onto it, and you also can glue it onto the top, making sure that it's enough on all the sides to smooth it over and turn it under, staple, and then you put your fabric on it to make it nice and spongy, firm, and comfortable. So that's how you can build up a seat if you choose to do it.
Or they can always give you a call.
That's right.
They can give you a call if you're not.
But if
up
you're a DIYer, then I just
good old DIY.
because that's what I am. Yeah.
So you have your choices, and I think that's what's important to people these days, that they have options, that you can try it yourself. There are ways to do it. Take your time with it, and you can make it work. You can make it happen. So I want to thank everyone for being with us. Thank you, Helena, for sharing these tips and insights today on Supercharged Sunday. And no, we're not quite, almost. Time goes fast when you're having fun. And today it's I call it my pro tip series. Last time we had Savvy Leon talking about pro tips for photographers and how you have effective photos for social media. And she gave some insights from a professional photographer perspective. So today Helena shared these upholstery insights, again, as you work on your home decor to make sure you have your home, know the options that you have, and we'll talk about this some more as far as different aspects of decor and so forth. But I want you to just keep marking your calendars for Supercharged Sunday. You have something to share?
I have another thing to say, and it doesn't hurt that you can do a little carpentry work. I mean, a drill, hammer. Because right now I'm making some outdoor furniture out of scrap pallet wood. Because you know how expensive it is now.
Yeah.
So I collect pallet wood.
From pallets that people use for shipping, and so you disassemble them, and you sanded them down and making it looks like new. The way you did it, it's kind of. We have to show some photos of that. We have to show some photos of this project that she's doing. It's to make a.
I am making this. This is my list. I'm making 2 love seats. I'm making a single seat, and I'm also making 2 ottomans to go with it. Because we had, you go to Walmart and they have that steel furniture. So we had it at one time. The cushions are perfectly good, but the steel furniture rusted out. So I kept the cushions and had the fabric and making the cushions now. And
you're gonna recover the original cushions, and you're making the furniture itself out of the pallets.
That's right.
So that's very exciting. So we can't wait to see that already for going forth. So everyone, Helena, thank you for these tips and insights. Please, anyone, if you have any questions or comments, do share it with us so we can come back and respond. If you have a project you're working on and you need some feedback, just let us know in the comments. In the meantime, I invite you to come on to Momentum Monday, which is going to be tomorrow morning, Monday morning, 7:45 a.m. on Supercharged with Emily. What am I going to be talking about? I'm going to be talking about some highlights about how about it be a surprise? Well, sometimes you have to ponder. Thank you, Helena. Sometimes I wait for that bolt of inspiration, but trust me, it always comes. And I usually pick up on a theme from what my guests shared. And one of the things is we've been talking about this whole idea of courageous conversations. This past week, I gave a presentation at the Women of Wisdom Conference, which was live from Portugal, and I was virtually a part of it here in Florida. And my topic was courageous conversations and the whole idea of courage and so on. It's been something I've been thinking about for the past few weeks, and all the different things that it takes courage to do, like upholstering a piece of furniture that you've never done before, takes a certain degree of courage because you might be afraid, am I going to mess it up? Am I going to know how to do it? And just to have the temerity and have the confidence to know, yes, I'm going to give it a try, and I'll see what happens, and I'll learn from this, and then I'll do the next one.
For instance, for example, I have a job of 3 chairs that the person wanted me to recover, and the back of the seat is upholstered, and the sides that are screwed on are invisible, are hidden, and I can't unscrew it. So and taking off the back is a bit dangerous, I would think.
I did it back on.
Yeah. So I called the company
That made the chair in the first place.
The chair made in the first place. This chair was done about maybe 15, 12 years ago. Very nice, firmly done, made in the U.S. And they told me what to do, but they didn't tell me how to take it apart. They told me what would happen if I did. So I said, okay, that changes how I'm going to do this job. Make a slipcover, but make it tight. So those kind of things, when you get stuff like that, don't just go into it. Investigate, and if you can, call up the people who made it.
If it's that type of project.
And if you can't find anything online, then come up with something else. But don't take apart the chair and you can't put it back again.
Yeah. So those are some of the very fundamental steps.
Yeah.
So yeah, and one more thing, guys, if you have not signed up for my Supercharge weekly newsletter, it's time to sign up because I share all kinds of tips and insights there so you can kind of keep up with what's going on. If you're not a member of my Supercharge with Emily Facebook group, I invite you to join it. And also my new YouTube channel, people. I'm uploading a lot of these Supercharge, all of the Supercharge Sundays will be placed on YouTube so you can share it with friends and family who may not be here on a Facebook or some other channel, and so they can get to enjoy it as well. So thank you for watching today. In the meantime, we'll see you next week or next time. And so in the meantime, stay supercharged, and thank you for being with us today. Bye. Okay, just smile. Smile, like really smile. I need a good screenshot.